This morning, I woke up and as I was drinking my coffee, I felt led to go back to a memory that I recalled under hypnotherapy about a year and a half ago. And I was also called to do a little research around it and connect some dots to that recollection this morning. So I've done that and I'm led to share some of that now, as I'm told it will help others who love Yeshua and have been in a spiritual awakening and have perhaps begun to receive revelation from God or from Yeshua that maybe bump up against what you might have been taught in the church. And it's important to understand that there's a difference between the true teaching and meaning of much of the Bible and what we are taught in churches. In other words, how mankind has interpreted much of the Bible and turned a lot of it into religious doctrine. Now, one of the things that's been very challenging for me along my spiritual growth journey, having started off deeply in religious doctrine, is as God has revealed more truth and ultimately led me to leave the quote church, bumping up against the truth that of the many things in our reality that are used to control people or keep us in certain systems in society, whether it's debt and money or laws and regulations, workforce, other social structures. Religion is among those. And as I moved through this whole process and learned new truth and started to dig and understand things that are not what we're normally taught, religion was kind of the last one that I bumped up against. And it was challenging because there's a lot of conditioning that we experience through that. But if you can be open and continue to develop your relationship with God and seek truth from Him, He will continue to meet you wherever you are and reveal more and more. And in my experience, a lot of that has been a layered process. And I believe that that's because He understands the conditioning and the things that we are conditioned to believe and that we're going to bump up against those things. And so He does it in steps and layers based on your readiness and your openness to new understanding. So with that being said, the hypnotherapy session I had over a year and a half ago, I had been gifted this 6-week hypnotherapy from a friend, and it was to help with helping you recall things that maybe are still affecting you in your day-to-day life. Not necessarily, quote, bad stuff, but just things that are playing out in how you move around in the world, how you operate, things that come up as, fears of success or fears of being seen or feelings of unworthiness and things along those lines. And so in one of my first sessions, it may have even been the first one, she, leads you through the initial process to go into the hypnotherapy. And it's just a generic question once you get to that point of, basically asking to be shown the memory that, is relevant to whatever it might be that you're working through at that point in time. So there's no preconceived idea of the age that you'll be or the specific memory around it or anything like that. The only context is whatever it may be that you're trying to navigate at that point in time. And so the memory started off with just seeing darkness at first. And then I started to feel this overwhelming feeling of unconditional love, a very powerful feeling of love, very similar to when God has revealed and shown me his unconditional love for people that, and then I started to see silhouettes, and I started to realize as they got a little bit more clear that they were not human silhouettes. They were sort of a bluish color, and they had big eyes, but I couldn't see much more clear or detail. It was almost like, well, there was this really bright light behind them, so it was making it hard to make out features or anything like that. And I remember feeling this love, and then I saw this portal behind me, and I knew I was about to go into the portal, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to leave this place. I knew this was family and home. And that feeling of love was so powerful, I did not want to leave it. And I don't remember anyone saying anything to me. They were standing kind of around in a circle around me and just waiting for me to enter the portal. But again, there was this powerful feeling of love. So as I entered the portal, they were watching, and I was watching them, not wanting to leave. And I kept seeing them getting further and further and further and further away until it was just like this portal, this like circular light toward the top of the portal. And at this point, I wasn't sure what exactly was happening. The next thing I remember was being in my mother's arms and seeing her hospital gown. And I remember I could feel her breathing. I could feel being in her arms, and I could feel the material and see the material of the hospital gown. And then sometime later, I saw like I was being passed over, and I saw my father. And then I saw him smiling. I saw him wearing like this kind of a burgundy color shirt with like a short zipper at the top around the neckline, but it didn't go all the way down like a hoodie or something. I remember his glasses, and I just remember him smiling, and I remember him holding me. And that's all I really remember from that. And I wasn't sure what to make of it, and I was quite blown away after I came out of the hypnotherapy, and I was talking to the practitioner about what I had experienced and stuff, and I just certainly didn't expect to remember being born, let alone pre-incarnation. And over time, I received other revelations around this. It was about a year later. I was meditating, and I pulled some cards from one of my oracle decks. It's called Divine Masters by Kyle Gray. And I pulled 3 cards at that time, and one of the cards was the Blue Beings, I think is what it was called. And so I went into meditation, and one of these beings came forward, and she was beautiful, and I felt that same powerful, overwhelming feeling of love. And she told me that she was my spiritual mother. And I was kind of perplexed by that. I wasn't really sure what it meant. And so that was that meditation. And then sometime later, she had come forward and told me that she was from Andromeda, which is a galaxy. And that was my origin. So depending on where you are in your spiritual awakening, you may have become familiar with the concept of star seeds. You may have started to get revelation that you are a star seed as well. And as you explore that, you'll likely be given information as to your origins, but that was mine. And so this morning, like I said, I was led to dig into this more, and I started, searching what I could find about, whatever there is about starseeds from Andromeda. And I discovered that there had been a lot of other books written about different starseeds, and some of the channelings that have been done around that, or other people who've had a similar experience, and there was some consistency with that. So then I started researching around, how does this intersect with, quote, not religion, but God? And so then I started finding Bible verses where it talks about, different orders of beings, different types of beings, obviously things like seraphim and cherubim, and other types of spiritual beings. And then I started searching around related to the book of Enoch, because in the book of Enoch, it also talks about other dimensions. I think it's 7 heavens or different things Enoch was shown, and these different other realms that are that are around and above and below earth. So I went into meditation about it, and I was given some more insights. I was shown some of it. I could see these layers, circles of clouds, it looked like, and different angels are on different levels of it. So, like I said, I felt led to share this, as I know a lot of people at this time have either been on a spiritual awakening journey, an inner healing journey, or are perhaps beginning one at this time. And as I mentioned, it can be very challenging when some of what you start to be shown in your spirit from God bumps up against what religion has led us to think or believe. And a lot of what we learn through religious doctrine is either not the whole truth, or it's just much deeper than, the truth is much deeper than the surface level. A lot of times it's almost like we're supposed to take it very literally, and that's not the case. There's a much deeper understanding or meaning behind it. And as you go through this process, like I said, God will continue to reveal it to you, and He'll continue to meet you wherever you are. Because you have to be very open and trusting to receive that information and that revelation. Because as you get deeper and deeper, it will you will bump up against the religious doctrine. You will bump up against the religious teaching. And it's very challenging when you do that, because there's some fear around it. There's a lot of conditioning around it. So that's what I'm led to share today. My experience of recalling that, and a little bit more about some of the things that have been revealed to me along the course of my own journey. And I'm led to continue to share as I go, because others are waking up, like I said, or have been on the journey for a while, and it can be difficult to navigate alone. So this is, to help provide some additional context or some of my own revelations and experiences that will hopefully help others as they move along their own journey.